Hey, this is James Reilman with Mr. Nick Allen and Push the Lane. How are you doing, sir?
I'm actually a little bit bored. So we're going to get right to our first topic, ECC Poland. It was 2 weeks ago. James, what did you think?
Yeah, it was a while ago, and while we know M5 and CLG are clearly the juggernauts of the EU scene, the most exciting thing for me out of that tournament was who's coming up in the 3 spot. And SK Gaming, for a long time, they've been kind of a joke, and there's been a lot of contention about their team changes. They haven't had a lot of synergy. They've looked, quite frankly, pretty bad for a while, but Yellowstar looked comfortable in the bottom lane. Kevin, as always, was strong at the top, and Ocelot, he's looking like a real pro again.
SK is still a joke, next to Moscow 5. Moscow 5 was amazing. They dominated CLG EU in the finals. They brought this new Guardian Angel style that we're seeing, and which has been spread all over Europe, and we're seeing that in North America now too. So this new play style combined with just a lot of practice and work ethic, Moscow 5 is looking extremely strong going into the World Championships.
All right, next up, TSM versus Blaze in the MLG Summer Arena. It was extremely exciting, that final series, but Blaze absolutely stomped TSM other than 1 or 2 games. What are your thoughts? Is TSM down for the count?
No, definitely not. TSM is potentially still the best team in the world, and that's because of their ability to adapt. And a few months ago, we saw Orbit coming into the scene and beating TSM. Fast forward a couple weeks after that, and TSM was actually dominating Orbit. So TSM is a team that just needs time to mature and to figure out the play style of their opponents, and from there they can actually just completely dominate.
Yeah, I actually think that TSM is in for a bit of a rough patch here. And the big thing is they need to adapt, but I don't know if they're going to do it fast enough. TSM has looked very strong for a long time. They have very strong laning phase. Their late game has always been very strong. But right now, they need to get used to that early aggressive style. And Reginald, he's kind of fallen out of it a little bit. TSM, they need to figure out what they're doing in the mid lane, whether or not he can run that TF pick. And then also, how are they going to deal with these more aggressive late game teams like M5, CLG EU that have just fantastic team fight control? I think they'll be back around the time for the Season 2 championship, but for the next month, I think they're really going to struggle at tournaments.
Okay, moving right along, we're talking about Dignitas. James, tell me how amazing Patoy is.
I think Dignitas looks really strong right now, and there's no question that Patoy looks strong, but I don't think that he's the reason for the changes. Dignitas, Patoy, and Locust, he's been this veteran player for a long time. Before the Elements tier list, there was the Locust tier list. Now they still have to have, Cutie Pie and Dominate. Locust isn't there to support the team, but here's the big thing. Dignitas, they've had a very passive playstyle for a long time. Scar in the mid lane has been very passive. They sit back and farm because farming is consistent, but now they need to diversify their team comps, and they've been doing that. It's a team mentality change that is worked out for them. Switching bot lane up to top, aggressive pushing, looking for that aggressive early game.
I can't believe you said that. Patoy is amazing. Since he's come to Dignitas, they've actually been dominating everybody. Bottom lane is just extremely strong. I'm a Cutie Pie is carrying every game, and that has a lot to do with the fact that Patoy has a diversity of champions that he can play, and he's just really strong. Meanwhile, Tarek was really Locust's only champion, and they're better off with Patoy.
All right, next up, LoL Championship Series. It has been announced by Riot. It's looking really exciting. There's going to be a huge prize pool, open arenas, and all sorts of cool stuff. What are your thoughts? How is it going to affect the environment of esports?
Well, I think the smaller tournaments are going to be hit the most on this. We're going to see a shift of the top teams going up into the Riot League, and then maybe some of the lower tier teams going into some of the other leagues below that. And then really along the bottom is where we're going to see maybe like a lot of tournaments just falling out. They're not going to have a lot of really competitive teams, and they're going to be scraping the bottom for competitiveness and talent. So they're going to be hit the hardest, and I'm sad to say that they're not going to be doing well come 2-3 months from now.
I think the big thing to look at is how the players are going to be affected, not the tournaments. And the players, they're going to be supported. There's going to be a lot of room for improvement when all these players, they can actually afford this lifestyle. They're getting salaries and such. So it's going to be really exciting to see the kind of meta changes and whatnot that we see as these players get to practice more and more. And it's just going to rise from the top up. That's the big thing. If Riot supports it from the top, it'll flow down and trickle benefits down upon all of us.
Okay, IPL FaceOff is this weekend. We have some big competitive teams coming in. Singapore Sentinels, World Elite, TSM. James, who do you think is going to win?
Well, fortunately, none of these teams have been seen to show that aggressive kind of pushing style that we've seen from some of the Korean teams and Dignitas and whatnot. But I do think that TSM is going to struggle for a little bit. World Elite has looked fantastic in the past, and out of the Asian teams, they're the one that has the most experience that's coming against NA teams. They've beaten CLG in the past. They were always innovators. Before Malphite was commonly played, they were playing Malphite in the jungle almost a year ago. So I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, you really have no idea what you're talking about. That's cool. Singapore Sentinels is going to come in and absolutely dominate. And the reason for that is they get to play against Taipei Assassins. In the competitive scene, Taipei Assassins is considered one of the strongest, if not the strongest team in the entire world. So getting to play against them and their diversity of skill and their work ethic, Singapore Sentinels is going to come in and absolutely wipe the floor with everybody, which is unfortunate for North America.
All right, guys, that's been Push the Lane. If you have any opinions you'd like to share with us, if you agree or disagree with what we've been saying, or have anything that you'd like us to talk about in the future, message us on Twitter @BaronCast.
And I'm @Nick Allen IGN, and we'll see you next time.
Nick Allen.